It's election night in Denver. Next is out on the campaign trail until the very end. Tracking turnout, talking to the candidates who, can I let you in on a little secret? They often sound exactly the same. Not the same old in Colorado Springs, as that city welcomes its first non-Republican mayor in ages. A presidential candidate points to wasteful spending in Colorado. Our fact check finds those dollars might not be spent at all. This rain worries firefighters who imagine when that green is end of summer crispy brown and ready to burn. Live from Union Station in the heart of Denver, it's election night on Next. Union Station is the picture of Denver's promise and its problems, waiting for a new mayor to be elected tonight. A historic gem, revitalized and full of people happy to be downtown, and yet just steps away on the sidewalks outside or in the transit center downstairs, you see Denver's problems on full display. Homelessness, crime, and drug use. These are not problems that will be solved overnight. But tomorrow, Denver will have a mayor-elect tasked with solving those issues. It'll be the first new mayor Denver has seen in 12 years. Before we begin our election coverage, I want to bring in meteorologist Danielle Grant, who's tracking a severe weather situation up in Weld County. Danielle?
We were looking at a tornado warning, a landspout tornado on the ground. That threat has since expired. A bit of good news, but this is the photo sent in to us by Dayton Harris in Fort Lupton, kind of looking at that. Landspout tornadoes form on the ground, not around the thunderstorm. So again, still can cause some problem, but not quite as strong as when we see tornadoes forming from the base of the thunderstorms. Look at that, 550 plus strikes across the entire state. It has been an active afternoon, to say the very least, and we still have a severe thunderstorm warning going. This is impacting DIA. In fact, they're on a ground stop until 6:30 tonight. This is going to be slowly moving up toward Greeley. Heavy rain plus some large hail and a lot of lightning too. I know, I feel like a broken record. Tomorrow, we're going to do it all over again. This takes us to 8 o'clock tomorrow, Wednesday morning. Bright, beautiful, blue skies. The temperature is warm. And then here we go, 3:30, 4 o'clock. Thunderstorms rumbling across the city. Everything lifting up to the north. Temperatures tomorrow pretty similar to today. We'll be back to the mid to upper 70s here for eastern Colorado. A few spots in the 80s with 50s and 60s up in the mountains. Better chance for storms on Thursday. Right now, just isolated on Friday, close to 80 degrees in the weekend. We'll keep the thunderstorms in the forecast.
All right. Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate it. So you can't say that Denver voters didn't have a choice in the first open mayoral race in 12 years. There were more than 25 people who filed to run for mayor. There were 16 who were on the ballot and still running at the time that folks voted in April. Turnout was not that impressive. Tonight, Mike Johnson, who made the runoff, will rally with his supporters here. Our Marshall Zellinger is across town, where Kelly Bruff will rally with her supporters. And Marshall, it's tough to say what the issue with turnout was in April. Maybe people just had analysis paralysis with 16 choices on the ballot. Maybe it was the fact that the city moved the process up a month. But we both know it all comes down to the last day of voting in Denver.
Yeah, history suggests that it won't be a surprise when more than 1/3 of all people who vote in this election will turn in their ballots today, something I am guilty of. Consider it procrastination, or what I like to think of is we're just a little bit more deliberate. Let's look at the numbers from this mayor's race compared to the last one in 2019. 4 years ago, with an incumbent mayor running for a third term, 46% of voters participated in that general election that narrowed the race to Michael Hancock versus Jamie Gillis. Fewer voters turned out for the runoff, 41.5%. 2 months ago, with a wide open race with 16 candidates, 39% of voters cast ballots. We don't know what we'll be at tonight, but let's look at the numbers at least through yesterday. That red number on the bottom right first, 25% of Denver voters have turned in their ballot through yesterday. Now look at the bottom left. In April, it was 21% of voters who had cast ballots through the day before Election Day. So we are trending better than that. In 2019, it was 26% of voters turning in their ballots ahead of Election Day in both the general and the runoff. So we're looking better than we were in April, but perhaps not as good in 2019. I will say, Kyle, that we know people like to vote on Election Day no matter how long they have ballots, 22 days. We know at 7 p.m. when we get those first numbers as results, that's supposed to account for everyone who turned in their ballot through yesterday. So for the more than 1/3 of people like myself who turned it in today, our numbers won't be reflective in those results until 8:30, 10 o'clock, 11:30, because Denver does it every 90 minutes. So if it's close, We may not know anything really till 11:30. If it's not so close, 8:30, 10 o'clock, we may know who the next Denver mayor will be.
Marshall Zellinger among the many who have no cause to complain if results drag out late into the evening, because that man always votes late, as so many people do in Denver. Hey, Marshall, we're going to bring you back later on in next and talk about something that we rarely talk about, which is the horse race question, right? We try to focus on who are the candidates, what are their policies, what are the issues, what's at stake, and we try to spend less time on the issue of just who's going to win. You know, like that's what you always hear on cable news, who's going to win, who's going to win. But the fact is, the campaigns do have some tells, even if we don't have public polling about which way the race might be leaning.
Yeah, I've already talked with people that are workers for both campaigns and people who are supporters of both campaigns that have given an idea of maybe where we're at tonight. We'll talk about that later in the show.
All right. I appreciate that, Marshall. Thank you. So one challenge for the other candidates on the ballot, it's not just the mayoral race, there are city council races up for grabs as well. And one challenge for the progressive candidates running for city council is that there is not a true blue progressive in the mayor's race, somebody who can drive turnout among progressive voters. Establishment Democrats, centrist Democrats, and Republicans would love nothing more than to unseat Councilwoman Candy C. Tabaka tonight. She has become somewhat of a fixation for folks in the center on the right because she's such a polarizing figure on the far left and among the candidates endorsed by the Democratic Socialists of America. She has an opponent in District 9 in Darrell Watson, who's backed by developers and business interests, kind of a who's who of establishment Democrats. And she's running on a bit of a Democratic Socialist endorsed slate of candidates, not an official slate, but working together with Shannon Hoffman and Chantel Lewis. Hoffman faces centrist incumbent Chris Hines, who represents downtown, and Lewis faces a more centrist challenger in Brad Rivera in their Northeast Denver district. One candidate endorsed by the Denver Democratic Socialists already won an at-large seat in April, guaranteeing that they will hold at least one seat. Sarah Parody is going to be on the new council. Got to remember, end of the day, Denver has a strong mayor system, and council is often forced to follow the mayor's direction. But if Democratic Socialists can increase their minority position on council from one to as many as four seats, they're going to hold a lot more sway in policy debates. Before we get to some others, I want to take you behind the scenes for a second in terms of how a mayoral campaign works, or really any kind of campaign. Candidates will pick a message, and then if they're disciplined, they will repeat it over and over again, often using the same words. And in this race, the candidates have started to echo one another's messages. And that honestly is one reason why our coverage has focused on targeted, direct questions to each of the candidates. Because when you ask them generic, open-ended, broad questions, sometimes they echo. What's your pitch?
Yeah, I think our city's at a crossroads.
What's your pitch?
My pitch is Denver's at a crossroads.
Is there an issue where you have changed your view based on something you've learned on the campaign trail?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll give you one example. You know, I've commuted on my bike for 30 years. I'm a huge proponent of it being safe to ride. And so I said in the very beginning, yeah, let's expand those bike lanes.
Probably on bike lanes and the combination of bike and safe access to downtown.
Interesting. Kelly said bike lanes as well.
That's interesting.
Is there an issue that you hear voters talking about all the time that you think that we in the media are missing?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely school safety.
I think the extent to which people worry every day now about their kids being safe at school is one that I hear every single day.
Your opponent said the same thing to that question. What have you liked most and disliked most about running for mayor?
You know what I've loved the most is being with people in their neighborhoods, in their coffee shops, in their living rooms.
I've liked being in people's living rooms and coffee shops out in the city.
Talking about real issues with real people.
And you get to have real in-depth conversations, get to know each neighborhood really well.
In fairness, these candidates have done something like 30 events together recently, so they've spent more time with one another than their spouses. That may be one reason why they're echoing each other. It is a new era of political leadership in Colorado Springs, where that city today inaugurated its first elected black mayor in Springs history.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Yemi Mobolade, or Yemi as he is known, is trying to position himself almost as an apolitical, nonpartisan leader. He beat former GOP Secretary of State Wayne Williams, who's happy to point out that Yemi had support from the Democrats in El Paso County. They said he was a progressive. Voters did not buy it. Yemi won in an absolute landslide. A Republican presidential candidate is criticizing what she calls wasteful spending in Colorado. What Nikki Haley said on CNN the other day caught my ear.
Want to know how they're spending your money? $30 million on an honors college in Vermont. $10 million to bring down a hotel in Alaska. $7.5 million on a courthouse in Colorado.
Haley's talking about the planned renovation of the Montrose County Courthouse on the Western Slope. It's an $11 million project. Democratic Senator John Hickenlooper got $7.7 million earmarked for it last December. Here's the thing, though. Montrose County commissioners have actually turned down that federal spending, the deal that Haley called wasteful. They didn't like that there were strings attached from the federal government, that they'd have to hire some out-of-town contractors, so they said no to the money. Our understanding is that now they are renegotiating, but it's possible that this wasteful spending in Colorado that Nikki Haley is citing in her stump speech may never actually get spent.
Love the rain now, but it makes firefighters nervous. Not for flooding. They're picturing green turning to brown, turning to fire. Denver is making city-sanctioned camping sites more permanent. A reminder that what is today's challenge wasn't even on a new mayor's radar a dozen years ago. That's next.
Colorado is looking lush these days. Our typical spring green is almost neon with all of the rain that we've seen. Firefighters, though, are not popping champagne because they know what is green today will be brown by the end of the summer, and then some of it will burn. Here's Mark Salinger.
The shrubs and the bushes are all growing a lot right now.
When Colorado turns dark and stormy, the land turns lush and green.
The rain right now, short term, is great. It's keeping things wet and keeping the fire danger down.
All those plants, shrubs, and grasses grow fast. For now, they stay green. But when the rain stops and Colorado inevitably dries out this summer, Lauren Ono with South Metro Fire Rescue knows they could become dangerous.
Correct. Once we get those hot, dry summers, it can dry out very quickly, and then we're left with large fuels or high grasses that can burn very quickly.
In a year like this, when spring storms lead to huge vegetation growth, firefighters already begin to prepare for what comes next.
There's going to be a lot more fuel out there, and it's going to be very dry, especially if we have a hot and dry summer. They're going to burn faster, longer. It's going to lead to larger fires.
Enjoy the green now and hope it lasts.
There are, of course, plenty of unintended consequences of all the rain that we've been seeing, as well as the large snowpack runoff in the mountains. Places like the Poudre River that you see here are still seeing wildfire ash and sediment flow into it 3 years after the Cameron Peak fire. Sometimes it can turn the river black. Right after the fire, the river was so polluted that cities like Greeley had to stop using it for water because the treatment plants just couldn't keep up. The impact of the wildfire can be seen for years as they still are working to clean up the watersheds after those awful 2020 fires. Kyle.
So what can we do? If you love and support firefighters, mitigate the hazards on your property and be really careful with sparks and fire this summer. Mark,
exactly.
Thank you.
Incoming Mayor Hancock 12 years ago could not have predicted the challenges Denver would face since then. Next, a councilwoman who made history alongside Hancock a dozen years ago reflects on how to lead when tomorrow's problems can't easily be predicted. Next.
Denver's sanctioned outdoor camping sites, which were once a temporary pilot, a very controversial part of the city's response to homelessness, are now becoming a more permanent part of the city. Over the last several years, neighbors' concerns about crime and trash and other issues never really materialized. The program started in 2020 as shelters were really crowded, and since then the city says 8 different locations have sheltered more than 500 people, and 180 of those people have been able to move into permanent housing. That program was supposed to end at the end of the year. City Council is now adding safe outdoor spaces, as they're called, to the zoning code. That will allow them to stay longer in one location. That just needs the mayor's approval. Our next conversation is with outgoing City Councilwoman at Large, Robin Kniech, who joins me now and is going to be with us for the remainder of the evening talking about the mayor's race. Councilwoman Kniech, when I think about where we are today with safe outdoor spaces and how controversial they were at the beginning, it occurs to me that a lot of what the mayoral candidates may be talking about now and anticipating being the big problems now are not what will be the city's biggest challenges 2, 4, 8, 10, 12 years from now. Think about Mayor Hancock and you coming in 12 years ago, having no idea the COVID pandemic was coming, the housing issues that we'd have, downtown emptying out. How do you even begin to solve problems you haven't heard about yet?
You take one step at a time and you try to make consistent progress. One of the mistakes is to think that you can solve a problem all at once, and you overfocus, you overpromise, and then you might miss the mark, you lose some trust and faith. I think consistent progress on a number of fronts, funding and programs and policies, and you've got to work with your council. This council has a lot of contact with their communities. They know their districts well. You ignore them to your peril, and you need them to be your partners, and you need those 7, 9, 10 votes to really get good buy-in.
Both of the mayoral candidates have made some pretty big promises. Kelly Brough says she will end unsanctioned camping on the streets in 1 year. Mike Johnson says that he will end chronic unsheltered homelessness in 4 years. No major American city has done that in any amount of time. Is it fair for the public to judge them based on those promises and those timelines?
We have pretty wise voters, and I would suspect most voters are voting based on the visions these candidates are bringing and the personalities and records they're bringing, and not these promises. And I hope that they won't lose the trust of voters when they fail to deliver. We know that these are complex issues. You've covered this well in Next over the past years. So we will hope that our voters bring the wisdom of what they know rather than relying too much on these promises. And I trust that our voters know this.
And want to acknowledge the history that you made 12 years ago when, with your election, you became the first out member of the LGBTQ community to sit on Denver City Council. Robin Kniech, look forward to our conversations on 9 News and on KTVD throughout the evening. Thank you. We'll return in just a moment as Marshall Zellinger and I turn away from the issues and the policy for just a moment to talk about the questions so many people are asking. Who's going to win this race tonight? Denver elects a new mayor for the first time in 12 years tonight. There has been no public polling recently in this race, which means you have to kind of read the political tea leaves to see who you think is going to win tonight. And the fact is, the campaign's behavior suggests what they believe will be the outcome. I want to bring in Marshall Zellinger on this. Marshall, we've seen lots of campaigns. The Johnson campaign is acting like a very confident campaign. They have not really gone negative. They have not completely blanketed the airwaves, whereas the Brough campaign is acting like a campaign that believes that they have ground to make up because they have gone negative and they've moved from message to message to message to message like they're trying to see what'll stick.
Yeah, you know, Colorado voters don't like negative ads, and you see the negative ads from an underdog, and we've seen Kelly Brough with an ad that she paid for that half was negative, then half positive. I know there was a mailer from the people who support Johnson that was negative, but that was a mailer, not on TV. We'll see who's in the happier place tonight, Kyle.
All right, very good. Hey, quick feedback from Mark, who said, "Who made it Denver? Communism is the only choice." Mark, there are 2 centrist Democrats in this race. One was endorsed by the Denver GOP. Don't clown yourself like that, but do join us for coverage throughout the night on 9 News and on 9 News Plus. See you next time.